Assalamu alaikum, hello and welcome. You're listening to Unity FM on 93.5 FM. My name is Shazia and you're joining me on the Nutrition Show. Really excited to have you all join me for a discussion on health and well-being through nutrition. As always, I would like to remind listeners that all information shared on today's show is general in nature. For anyone with any medical issues or concerns, please be sure to seek medical advice from your own general practitioner. So today is special and I have the honour of being joined by a very special guest. A registered nutritional therapist, previously trained in other disciplines, delivering personalised nutritional and weight loss programs, as well as one-to-one health coaching programs. She utilises recipe ebooks and meal plans when she works with her clients. Her work is focused on rebalancing body systems based on the understanding that the body is highly complex and requires underlying issues to be dealt with in order to then deal with the symptoms, and this includes weight loss. She believes healthy food should be quick and easy to prepare whilst tasting amazing. And having worked in recipe development within the food industry for many, many years, this comes naturally to her. Hello and welcome, Alix Tomkinson.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, lovely to have you here on the show today. Alix, I've had the honour of getting to know you while studying with you at college, and I'm totally amazed and blown away by the work that you've achieved over the years and your training and your learning. So that the audience too may learn about you, please can you tell us a bit about your journey?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So it's been quite a long journey, I suppose. So I originally studied as a dietitian. So I went off to university, it would have been my late teens, wouldn't it? I went off to university to study nutrition and dietetics and to become a dietitian at that time. But throughout the study, I decided that dietetic approach wasn't right for me. It wasn't holistic enough for me. I really like approaching the body in a holistic way, so looking at everything interlinking together. So I decided that I didn't want to do my state registration for being a dietitian. So at that time, I'd done all the training and everything. I actually did a year out working in the hospital as well. So I'd done all the training.
Wow.
And that's how I just knew that approach wasn't quite right for me. So what I did instead, so I got a degree, I qualified with a degree in human nutrition. And then I went to work in the food industry. So I worked in new product development for around 20 years. Which was brilliant, and and I learned a lot about what goes into products, so I know what goes into a lot of different things and things to be watching out for on labels, which helps me a lot when I'm now working with clients in nutritional therapy. So I had twin boys in 2012. So at this time I was working in a corporate workplace, so things kind of changed, priorities changed, so that kind of pressured corporate workplace was no longer for me anymore. And I started to think, what could I do? I'd always wanted to do nutrition. The dietetic approach hadn't been quite right for me, but I still really kept having that calling back to nutrition. And so I started looking around. I thought, I can't be in this corporate role forever. It's not going to fulfill me forever. The boys are now taking, my priorities have changed with having the boys. And I looked at what I could do. And I found nutritional therapy, and I didn't have any idea that nutritional therapy existed before this point, or I wish I did, and that's what I could have trained in back then, but I didn't know that it was even a thing. So I found that and enrolled in 2016. I enrolled in a 3-year nutritional therapy diploma course, as you are well aware. And I graduated from that in 2019, qualified as a nutritional therapist. And I then started my business. So I've been looking at ways to set up my business alongside. So when I qualified, I could start quite quickly in seeing clients. I knew it's what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people with their health, and I was really passionate about it. So I just wanted to get up and running as quickly as possible. So that in itself was a journey, because in 2020, obviously, I just set up my clinic. I actually have a physical clinic, and I do online as well, but then COVID hit. So I just set it up in January, COVID hit, and everything went online anyway. So I still do have my physical clinic, which I'm using more and more now, obviously now that COVID has passed. And I started working with the NHS Diabetes Prevention Programme last year as well. So I'm self-employed for them as well. So I'm contracting to them as well. So got loads going on. So that's alongside my private clinic and the clients that I'm seeing. So yeah, so that's kind of my journey and where I am up to now.
Amazing. So many different aspects as well, isn't it? And seeing that from such a holistic perspective, just from all the different roles that you've actually done. So not just the fact that you chose to practice in a more holistic way, but all the different kind of elements that have come together to create that sort of more holistic and balanced way of kind of dealing with clients. I love the fact that you mentioned the labeling and the food industry information, because how many of us do not know how to read a label, and how many of us actually have the time to actually think, okay, let me read and see what's in my food, and those ingredients in there. I mean, those lists are massive, let alone unpronounceable. Some of those names on there, aren't they? Yeah,
exactly. It can be shocking. And when you start actually looking, I have participants on my pre-diabetes groups who are saying it's taking them so much longer to go around the supermarket now because they're having to check everything. But the sugars, and actually sugar is one thing that's in things you don't even expect it to be in.
Absolutely. I mean, don't they say that there's like 50 odd names for sugar alone that we should be able to recognize really and say, okay, well, look, there's sugar in this food, even though it's not sweet, like you've mentioned. And it's so important to sort of educate ourselves and take the time out to like focus on foods that are going to be beneficial to us. And we know that sugar is one of the main foods that we look at, don't we, when we're trying to improve a client's diet and lifestyle. So absolutely, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I'm blown away. I'm really blown away. Amazing story. So as we both realise in our work in nutrition, Alix, it's always important that people seek out practitioners who have got appropriate training and qualifications. Can you share your views briefly on this and tell us about how important it is to seek someone who's appropriately qualified, and just talk a little bit about the qualifications that you got on your journey to today?
Yeah, this is so important, and it's one of my real bugbears, because the health industry and nutrition, as I know you're aware, is a massive industry, and there's people working within this area who actually aren't well qualified. So my background means I'm qualified to work with people with health conditions. So I've done proper training. I've not only done my dietetic training, which was a year out actually working with patients in the hospital setting, in nutritional therapy. We've done clinics as well. So we've got hands-on working with and being supervised working with clients. So we're properly trained, and we know how to. So we're properly trained in recommending supplements, in testing, and functional testing is required for a client. We've had all the proper training, and I see so many people who are so-called nutritionists, and actually it's interesting because the word nutritionist isn't actually a protected title, so anybody can call themselves a nutritionist. So it's really important to look for somebody who's done the right level of training, and it's not just a 2 week. So you can buy courses that are like a 2-week course that you can call yourself a nutritionist on, and they really don't have the understanding, and they could be quite dangerous, because I see a lot of blanket supplementing. So an example is probiotics. So yes, probiotics are amazing, really helpful for so many people, but in some circumstances they are not to be recommended for clients. So if they're taking particular medications, if they're on immune suppressive drugs, we need to be trained in that area. And I see so many people promoting things like this, and yes, for most people it will be fine, but there will be people, and they're not trained in this way, to know that particular person, this may be a contraindication for them to actually take something.
Absolutely.
So really, I know you know this, but it's really important, isn't it, to make sure that you're checking that somebody is trained in the right way, and they're not just on a 2-week course, or
absolutely,
and they've passed exams and they know what they're talking about.
Absolutely. Definitely. So yeah, that's such an important point that you've raised there. So, just because you're buying a vitamin or something that classes as a food supplement, it doesn't mean that it's going to be the safest for you. And always check in with a professional that is registered appropriately, so has gone through rigorous training, is registered with known registry bodies. So as you mentioned, you've gone to a reputable university, to a college, you've got the degree, you've got the certificates to hand if they ever need to see them. Not that they do, but we need to have them there, don't we? And
Absolutely.
They're able to check our registration now anyway. So this is so important. So absolutely. And I used to see this in my work as a pharmacist, actually. So it applies equally importantly to nutrition. So thank you for bringing that up. That's such an important point. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more about how you work, Alix, and the work that you're doing is so crucial. So we see many clients presenting with weight concerns, and they've tried so many diets, they've tried so many programs, lifestyle changes, but they're so frustrated because they're not getting that weight loss that they need and the results that they want to see. And oftentimes that's when they will probably approach a nutritional therapist. So I'm sure you see this very often, Alix, and I'm sure these are the people that are finding a lot of success working with you. Could you perhaps briefly talk about what factors you discover in your research, in your work, that makes weight loss a challenge, first of all, and then why it's so difficult to shed those extra pounds for so many people?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, it's all very individual. And it's important to figure out what's going on for that person as an individual. So I work a lot with weight loss blockers. So it is identifying what is going on for that particular person that might be blocking their weight from shifting in the way that they want it to shift. So this can be something like, so weight loss blockers are things like hormonal imbalances. It can be digestive upset. So if your digestive system isn't functioning in the right way, can be inflammation, can be a blocker. So if you've got something going on in your body, so you generally associate inflammation with pain, but it could be low level inflammation as well. So something that's just a niggle that's ongoing, and that could be blocking weight loss from happening as well. Stress is one I see a lot. So stress is a massive blocker to weight loss because of the stress response and what happens in the body when we're stressed. That can actually make us put weight on or block our weight loss from happening. Even if we're not eating, it can still block weight loss from happening. And then our mindset is absolutely key. So if we're not in the right mindset, and I've had clients who the mindset is all wrong, and because they don't believe they can lose weight, that's what's stopping them. And the minute we shift that around and get them to start believing that they can actually lose weight, then things start to happen for them. So all of these, as I'm sure you can imagine, are quite complex areas. So they've all got, things that we can deep dive into in each of these areas. So all of these can be big things that we need to look at working on.
Amazing. So it's not just about what you eat, is it? Yeah.
No, it's not.
Amazing. No. Yeah. I mean, when I talk to people about sort of like their sort of lifestyle habits and how that can affect weight loss, they're like, "Are you sure?" They look at me like confused. And I'm like, yeah, it's not just about what you're eating. It's about so many different factors that are coming into play. I mean, there's people who think that they can get away with 2 hours sleep and then expect the weight to fall off. And you're like, how?
Sleep's another one. Yeah, I mentioned sleep, but that's another one.
Exactly. So how they don't. It's a link, isn't it? They don't understand that there's a link between lifestyle factors and weight loss. And achieving that optimal weight that we all want and want to keep. Amazing. So before we chat about how you support your clients with weight loss in your clinic, Alix, I'm just going to say for the benefit of the viewers that the discussion that we're having today is only for information purposes and not constituting medical advice. So as we mentioned, we're all individual, we're all unique, we need that personalised support. So if anyone listening in to the show with related health issues, concerns, or even unrelated, please do speak to your own medical practitioner at your earliest opportunity. Of course, your personal safety and wellness is our primary concern. So Alix, I'd love for you to share some general methods that you utilise in supporting your clients with weight loss, please. So just on a very general level, what kinds of things do you do that you find work quite well? And perhaps people could think, oh yeah, I can start looking into that and seeing if that could support me. And then they can obviously take that further by working with a nutritional therapist maybe in the future. So just getting people to kind of look into things for themselves, doing their own research. What would you say those would be?
Yeah, so I always start with making sure that somebody's got the basics in place
Hmm.
first. So looking at the fundamentals for weight loss. So this might be regular meals. So if somebody's skipping meals, I'll always make sure that they're putting in, or we start working on getting regular meals in, because this can be really important for weight loss.
Hmm.
Balancing meals in the right way. So we talk about the plate and how to balance the plate in the right way for weight loss. I don't focus on calorie counting with my clients at all, because I don't believe in calorie counting, because we can get very much focused on calories, and
Hmm.
then the calories aren't necessarily nutritional calories. So
Mm.
it's more important where the calories are coming from than how many calories are in something.
Hmm.
So when I'm doing my groups, I always talk about 1,000 calories in vegetables versus 1,000 calories in chocolate,
Wow.
and the two have very different reactions in the body.
Sure.
So, the chocolate will make you store weight. It'll put your body into an insulin response. So insulin
Hmm.
is our fat storing hormone. So
Hmm.
insulin has to remove sugar from the blood when we eat sugar, when we eat carbohydrates, and that goes into the blood. Insulin is our fat storing hormone, but it has to remove the sugar from the blood.
Hmm.
So we want to make sure things like that are balanced. Uh, and so, yeah, so I work a lot on blood sugar balancing in that way with my clients,
Amazing.
making sure that is in place as a fundamental, so that we're not spiking our blood sugars and causing fat storage, and and blocking weight loss from happening.
Absolutely. Hmm.
So I've talked a bit about insulin. And then, also balancing the plate. So balancing the plate with protein. So this is to do with blood sugar balancing. So making sure we've got protein on the plate, making sure we've got small amounts of the right kinds of carbohydrates,
Sure.
lots of vegetables, and we talk about half the plate to be vegetables, and then healthy fats as well to
Hmm.
form part of the meal, but just in small amounts, because fats are quite calorific.
Mm.
So yeah, whereas I say calories I don't focus on them. Obviously, whatever we do eat have calories, and we want to make sure we're getting those calories from the right sources, from
Hmm.
a balanced, healthy diet.
Amazing.
So hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something again that we don't really take note of, do we? What do we put on our plate? And how often do we go back? How many of us actually eat from a plate? We're like kind of like just
Yeah,
eating on the go, or we're
yeah,
kind of like just, it's like perhaps we're sharing from a bowl. I don't know. You can't really work out what you're doing when you're doing, you're eating in that way. Could you just give us a little bit of information, Alex, about what you mean about sort of healthy fats and good carbohydrates, just that the viewers are a bit more kind of understanding of what choices are kind of better
yeah.
than others?
Absolutely, yeah. So
Mm.
when we talk about healthy fats, we're talking about potentially oily fish. So salmon, mackerel, anchovies, herring, sardines are oily fish.
Hmm.
We're also talking about nuts and seeds. We're talking about avocado, uh, olives and olive oil. We're talking about. I think they are the main ones. I don't know if you can
Amazing.
think of any others.
Yeah, no, exactly what I would recommend as well. Yeah, so absolutely, and I mean, I tend to put in a bit of coconut as well, so in moderation.
Coconut, yeah, that
Yeah, I
would be
love
another.
coconut.
Absolutely, yeah, good one, yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, and in,
And
in terms of carbohydrates, what would you kind of suggest?
so, yeah, the carbohydrate only to be around a quarter of the plate,
Hmm.
and to be whole grain as much as possible.
Hmm.
We don't want so anything refined. So by refined, I mean that they've taken the fibre out. So it'd be like a white bread or a white
Mm.
pasta or something made with white flour.
Sure.
Anything that is white will spike blood sugars, and we know blood sugars spiking equals storing fat. So
Mm.
we don't want that to be happening in the
Sure.
body. So it's about the right amounts of the
Hmm.
carbohydrates, and it'd be whole grains generally. So wholemeal. Uh, when we talk about breakfast, we always talk about things like bran flakes or
Hmm.
wheat bix, anything that's got the whole grain in it
Hmm.
for the carbohydrates.
Amazing.
And that gives you the fibre as well. And that's
Yeah,
got other potential benefits in the body as well. So
absolutely. And how many of us don't get enough fibre in our diet?
exactly.
Really,
Yeah.
so we want to be doing as much as we can with as little effort as possible. Especially,
Exactly. And just swap in some of
yeah,
these. So if
this
you're
is
having
it.
the white version, swap into the wholemeal version, which is going
Absolutely.
to give you that fibre and so many more benefits. So
Absolutely amazing. Amazing. It's so useful to see it in that way as well. So I find that having a visual, and I mean the plate serves as a visual, doesn't it? So you can kind of like, if you have to, when you're starting out, put your food in quarters and kind of work out where you are, and then over time as you get used to the portions, you can start to kind of become a bit more flexible. I mean, I guess I'm talking about someone who's like kind of eating fish and chips and a sandwich in the middle of the day, and then perhaps having a coffee and something very quick at night, possibly. I don't know if they're on a night shift or something, those kind of crazy situations that we do encounter, don't we, in practice? And it's kind of getting those people started on a journey which definitely help to have that plate in front of them, and for them to mark out their plate into quarters and putting food on it to get them started, isn't it? If they're really serious, I think they'll do it.
Absolutely, and carbohydrates is one of the areas where most people are going wrong. So we absolutely fill our plates with carbohydrates a lot of the time, but it's often the white ones as well. So, like you mentioned, the fish and chips, so like half the plate will be the chips, won't
Absolutely, yeah. Or even more, actually. I know I've done it. And like you got your chips on, kind of covering your plate, and you got the fish on the top. Yeah. So absolutely, and it's good to and the transition that you see is amazing, isn't it? Even with a minor change, you can start to feel the difference in your body.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just small changes. People see so many results just from making those small changes. So amazing. It's brilliant. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some of the testimonials with your work, and you can see people are actually making change to a level that is actually really impacting their lives, and they're really grateful for that change, and they're seeing it sort of affect all the other aspects of their life as well. It's not just you're getting more energy or feeling good in yourself because you look better, but it's like everything else is impacted as well. So it's like a domino effect, isn't it? It's not like a one-pronged benefit. It's just the benefits are so extensive.
Absolutely, yeah. And these changes they're not difficult generally. So they are simple changes. So we get so much from just making a few tweaks there and there.
Absolutely. Definitely. We're going to talk more about the mindset sort of part of this when we come back after the break. But just to kind of finish the first part of the show then. So it's been incredibly helpful. I'm learning loads myself, and I'm sure that this discussion is going to resonate with many of our listeners. So we're going to go for a short break now. So you're listening to me, Shazia, on the Nutrition Show on Unity FM 93.5 FM with our special guest today, Alix Tomkinson. So we'll be back after the break for more, so please stay tuned. We'll be diving into behaviour and mindset when it comes to supporting clients with weight concerns shortly. So just a reminder that our discussion is for information purposes only, so does not constitute medical advice. For any health concerns or issues that you may have, please do consult your own medical practitioner. So amazing, Alix. I've learnt so much already. So really excited to get into the second part of the show. So weight loss then, when it's not happening, it's something that can get people really down. Yeah, so you can't wear the dress that you want to wear. Your spouse thinks you look terrible. You perhaps don't want to go out anymore. Your social life is suffering. And I hate to say it, but so many people have mental health issues as a result of their outer appearance, which is really sad. So we know mental health in and of itself is a huge area of concern now for many of us, and we see it in our clinics as well, don't we? And we know that we've got to work with mental health practitioners to get our client on their wellness journey. Perhaps, if you don't mind, if you can tell us more about how you gauge your clients in terms of their behaviour, their mindset, and keeping them motivated when it comes to successfully achieving weight loss. Surely these are all really important when it comes to getting the results that they seek.
Yeah, mindset is really key, and it is one of those tricky areas because sometimes people can be feeling quite negative about their weight. And they can also be talking to themselves in quite a negative way as well. So I see this a lot with clients. So they can be in quite a negative mindset, and they can actually be quite mean to themselves as well. So talking in a way whereas they don't like looking in the mirror. They hate themselves. They feel like they look ugly, or So I always approach with my clients on this, and in my groups, so I have people talking about the terminology that people are using towards themselves and diets and weight.
Wow.
It's crazy, and it comes from the weight loss industry and the diet industry, because it's people are using words they really shouldn't be using with themselves.
Okay.
They're being quite mean. I've had clients kind of beating themselves up, saying that they're failures
Oh,
and that
wow.
they're never going to be able to do this. And
Mm-hmm.
so whereas mine is absolutely key, we also need to be kind to ourselves as well.
Mm.
So with my clients, I've always got to gauge where somebody's at. So if somebody is really like a really stressed, kind of driven person, but is also feeling like they're failing, we've got to kind of dial that back a bit and work on the stress and help that person to feel like they can actually succeed.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of people, it feels like this massive mountain that they've got to climb, and they think they've got to be on a particular meal plans, or they've got to be cutting all the calories, or they've got to be doing a particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas actually, once we take the pressure off that and they start saying to themselves nicer things, so instead of telling themselves they hate their bodies and that they're kind of seeing their body as a separate entity to the rest of them, you know, they don't like looking at this, you know, I hate looking in the mirror. You know, we've got to kind of try and rebuild that relationship with ourselves for healing, so that weight is actually happy to go. Because if we keep telling ourselves up here that we're stuck with our weight, and I have a client, I should say, who had tried everything. She's so stuck with her weight, or she was so stuck with her weight. It was up here, it was all in her head.
Wow.
And she was telling herself since a young child that she couldn't lose weight, and she had all these stories in her head about why she couldn't lose weight. It was, you know, she'd always seen her mum doing certain things around food and getting on the scales, and her mum had struggled, and she kind of taken that on. And she came to me saying, I have tried every single diet, I have done everything that I can, and I still can't lose weight. And the last thing she'd tried was she'd had a gastric band put in.
Oh, wow.
So, which made me so sad that she actually had to go that far to get a gastric band put in. But she actually said, I've had a gastric band put in and I still can't lose weight.
Oh, my goodness.
Even with a gastric band, I can't lose weight. So she was at the end of her tether with it all. And actually, the block for her was in her head. And for all her life, she'd been telling herself she couldn't lose weight. Amazing. And that weight was going to go on. And this is what was happening for her. So we've been working a lot on what she's telling herself, that story in her head, and what she can do about it, taking those small steps. And she is actually losing weight.
Wow,
and it's not from,
amazing.
She doesn't even need the gastric band.
Oh, wow.
She just needed to believe and tell herself. So it's well known that what we tell ourselves in our heads, our brain doesn't actually know what's true and what's not. So if we have the positive mindset, we keep telling ourselves and reinforcing that we can do something, or this is going to be successful, or it is going to work, whatever it is that we keep telling ourselves.
Absolutely.
That is so powerful. People don't realise if that in their heads is the negative version of that, I'm never going to lose weight, I'm going to be stuck like this forever. You know, you've got all the negatives going on. That is what happens.
Absolutely.
So, and our brain doesn't know the difference.
Amazing.
So we start telling it that we are going to lose weight. This is going to work. I'm doing all the right things. I'm nourishing my body for weight loss. I'm putting everything in that I need to. And lo and behold, things start to happen, and the body starts to believe that it can actually let some of that weight go. And yeah, I'm so excited for my client, but for her to have had to go through all of that is just so sad that somebody would take that, you know, that last resort step of, I mean, she said to me, I spent all my money on getting this gastric band, and even that isn't working.
Yeah.
Goodness.
It's like a blow on a blow, isn't it? It's like it's so compounding. Yeah. Wow.
And it's the key of finding the blocker. So if the blocker isn't in the, you know, it's not what you're eating. If it's in your head, then we have to work that.
Amazing. So, wow. Yeah. Amazing.
Fascinating.
And I think you're absolutely like spot on. I mean, when I read, you know, lots of you know, bits and things about nutrition when I'm doing my research, I mean, the number of times I'm coming up across things like, you know, your sort of your thought process, your behavior in terms of what you think of yourself. And again, it's not something that we relate, do we, to like weight loss or anything for that matter. We don't relate our thoughts, our kind of self-attention, our self-love. We don't relate that to anything that we want to try and achieve, because we kind of see it as a side thing. We see it as unrelated, don't we? And we think, okay, when I've got time for that, I'll deal with that. I love myself when I
Absolutely.
need to love myself.
And
And
you know, self-love, you mentioned self-love, and that is a massive
yeah,
thing, especially for women.
yeah,
We all hate ourselves. We all,
yeah,
the self-love is so lacking
absolutely.
in society, and we
Yeah.
actually need to start, healing that relationship, don't we,
Mm,
with ourselves? We should be practicing that self-love more and more. And
yeah.
yeah, we're not. We're hating ourselves. And I
Mm,
do think it comes back to the diet industry as well, because we're told that we've got to punish ourselves to lose weight. We've got to cut the calories. We've got to deprive ourselves. We can't eat
yeah.
that. It's all the negatives, isn't it?
Yeah. I love
And we
that
should.
word that you've just used there, that deprive. I think that's such an amazing kind of summation sometimes, isn't it, of
Hmm.
why people are not achieving what they want to achieve because they're so busy taking things out that actually you
Yeah,
can put things in and they will help you get towards your health goal.
yeah,
And like as you
absolutely.
mentioned about the swaps as an example, I mean, we're not taking anything out necessarily, we're just swapping over to something else rather than saying, okay, you can't have that. That's the story.
Exactly.
That's it. You can't have that. It's not going to work. Is it? And if it does work, they'll try, and then they're back, with a vengeance on that food, aren't they? So it just does not
Right.
work. So,
Yeah, the yo-yo dieting
yeah.
effect. Yeah. Oh, it works. And the amount of times I hear people saying, "Well, that one worked. It really worked for me."
Mm.
But it doesn't work when I come off it. I have to get back on it for it to
Yeah.
work.
This is
It's
it. This is it.
telling you something, isn't it? That it's
Yeah.
not actually working.
Amazing. And it's not about diets as such, is it? It's about finding a wholesome way of eating, the way that our ancestors used to eat, unprocessed whole foods, enjoying what we eat. So we're finding ways to incorporate them in a way that they're palatable. As you say, that, food doesn't need to be, such that, you don't like the taste of it because it's good. You find a way to make good food taste good, don't you? Whether you add spices
Exactly.
to it or you add herbs to it, you cook it a different way. And there's so many amazing ways to cook food now as well, with the, I guess, with the changes to technology as well, that, we have to build those in if we're going to really make change for ourselves and our families. If we're not setting a good example for our families, we're not going to really achieve a lot, are we really? So, I mean, like you say, you've mentioned your two lovely twin boys there. They're going to be looking at what you're doing and they're going to be following example, aren't they? So
Yeah.
we want to set them up for a good future as well.
Absolutely, but
Yeah.
it's really hard. It's
Yeah.
really hard for kids, I think,
Yeah.
nowadays because of the way that is seen as the normal way of eating
Mm,
is the sugar-filled, carb-filled diet, and it is the beige
yeah.
diet. And we need to be, like, say, going back to how we used to be and
Mm,
eating the nourishing foods. But actually,
mm,
what kids are seeing nowadays is
yeah.
that beige diet. It's the ready foods, the fast foods. It's all of those things we can just grab because we're all so busy. And
Mm,
it is, unfortunately, a reality, isn't it, that
it is.
life is busy and this is what we're
Absolutely.
doing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
How do you find that, I know you work with ladies sort of post 40 generally, but do you find perhaps in your research or how you, when you look into the trends, etc., that children are also being affected by weight issues as well? Or is that something that you haven't really kind of looked into? How do you
Yeah,
find that?
well, for
Hmm.
my own kids, yes,
Hmm.
yeah, I would say definitely.
Okay.
And it worries me the future because of the amount of sugars that are in things. And
Hmm.
my own kids are very much directed in the supermarket towards the
Mm,
kid friendly foods,
yes.
which are full of sugar. And
Mm.
the marketing on these foods is very
It's
clever.
very
And
strong,
they've got
isn't
the
it?
colours. Yeah, they've got the colours
Mm,
for kids to like them, and they're always asking me for sweets. Whereas sweets used to be, probably when I was growing up, it'd be kind of at one point in the day maybe, or at the
mm.
weekend, and it would be more of a special
A
thing.
treat, yeah.
Sweets and chocolates and things everywhere, aren't they now? So they can
Absolutely.
get them whenever they want. Every time we go in the shops, one of them will be asking for sweets of some kind. So, and it's really hard,
It is.
So
Yeah.
for somebody like me who's educated in this area, it's hard enough for me. For people who aren't educated in this area,
Mm,
the amount of sugar that can be going into the diet can be massive.
mm,
So I think for kids, definitely, it's going to be. I think it's already impacting on kids.
mm.
What they're eating. There was a study, I can't
Absolutely.
remember what it was, but I've seen something recently about type 2 diabetes in children, and I
Yes.
think it's increasing.
Yeah.
So it's scary. It's a scary
Absolutely.
thought, really.
Yeah. I did an interview with a dietitian actually a couple of weeks ago, and this is exactly what she was saying, that
Yeah.
the fear is the increase in type 2 diabetes in children. In Asian children alone, we know the stats are showing that the number of children with obesity is like rapidly on the increase. So it's something that really does need to be addressed at the family level. So, I mean, obviously the younger children, they're still dependent on their parents, aren't they, for guidance. But like you said, there's so much influence outside of their home. And even on whilst they're on their iPads and things, the adverts popping up about foods, you can't get away from it, can you? So
absolutely, yeah.
So like
they see things. They see things on there. One of my sons was saying he'd seen. Can he try a particular type of sweet because he'd seen it on TikTok or something?
Oh my goodness!
When I go back to the shops now,
no.
Sweet that he's seen on TikTok.
Oh wow!
I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, so they know how to get to people, don't they? And it's about us educating people. And I say to my clients, it's about changing your palate. Don't be harsh on yourself. It's going to be a long journey for some of us. Than compared to others. Don't compare yourself to anyone. It's about changing your palate. So it's that tongue's got to like start to appreciate that you're now trying something different. And it's about looking for ways and means to make that food more palatable. So, if you can't eat broccoli in a certain way, try preparing it in a different way. Even if you're reducing the nutrient content because you're overcooking it for a while, doesn't matter, just try it. And, masking your kind of greens in smoothies and soups and things like this. There's ways and means, and it's about getting clever, isn't it? You've got to like kind of start looking outside of the box and thinking about ways and means to do this, especially when you've got to see it as an investment. If you're going to think of it as a quick fix, Alix, and as you know, it's just not going to happen, is it? It's an investment.
No.
It's
alive, isn't it?
It's alive, exactly.
It's
not.
Haven't we?
Yeah, so it's like, we're not going to say, okay, in 2 weeks you're gonna drop 10 pounds. It's just not going to work, and that's not safe anyway. We want to make it gradual, and we want it to be natural. We want the body to realise that, oh look, I'm being given the right foods now. Now I can release this extra weight, and as you say, I mean, things like stress. The body thinks we need to keep this weight. That's what it's doing. It's actually being protective of us, isn't it? It's kind of saying that this person might go into starvation because, she's doing this. And in some ways, our body can, although so complex, can have such primitive actions. I mean, in terms of the stress response, it's very primitive. It can't tell the difference between running from a lion and actually just having a huge work target that you just can't meet. So it's kind of like us educating our bodies, hang on, this is not the way we want to, present ourselves because, there's a stressor in our life or whatever it may be. And it's like we're taking the means and the measures then to help the body then kind of readjust itself and say, I didn't need that weight. She didn't need that. She wasn't going to go into starvation next week. It's just that, she this is how we can now start to change things. Is that what you think as well, or?
Absolutely, I totally agree. And the habits and behaviours, they are things that take time to change as well. So when we're addressing some of these things, like talk about stress, I mean, stress is something people don't find it easy to get out of. So especially if it's that chronic stress, which is, maybe related to work or lifestyle or whatever it is, it's that constant thing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So it's not always easy to just come out of that. So it is putting in the habits and starting to put in those behaviours, and these things take time to stick, don't they? So it's none of it is a quick fix. It's about setting yourself up for that future in the right way.
How many clients would you say on in proportion wise would you say that stress could be like a key factor that's kind of stopping them losing weight? Is it quite big? Or
for my clients, yes, it's quite big, because I specialise in over 40s generally. Over 40 generally have got more busy lives, more going on, probably families, and also coming up to the menopause, so hormones can be changing around this time. So it can be much harder around this time to lose weight. In our 20s, our bodies are quite different, and we probably didn't have the amount of stresses on us that we do in our 40s. For a lot of people, the stresses have increased over their life, up to 40 and beyond. It's things get quite stressful. So definitely I see it quite a lot. Stress is something I'm working on with a lot of my clients.
Amazing.
And how to balance that, how to manage that.
So it's older kids at that time, older parents as well. So you've got two-pronged kind of stresses, and with you might be at the peak of your career at the time yourself. So managing your stress, isn't it? Yeah, I can see what you say.
All adding stress. Yeah,
absolutely.
You've got so much more to think about. So,
are there any particular kind of resources that you kind of use to help manage stress, Alix? Is there kind of like general things that people can kind of go to? What would
So
you say?
in a general sense, so I'd always be looking at what that person's got in their life to help with the stress. So are they taking some time out? Are they even something as simple as going for a walk and just bringing down the stress levels? Getting out in nature can really help with stress. There's other things we can do. If somebody wants to know what their stress levels are actually looking like, we can do testing. We can do functional tests to look at the stress response and see how stressed somebody is. Sometimes this can help clients who don't believe they're stressed. So if they're kind of that stressed that they're not even seeing it, to do a stress test that comes back saying that their stress levels are off the charts can be quite an eye-opener for them. So
the evidence is there.
Yeah, that can help. But generally, for most people, I'll either be looking at making sure that their sleep is really good, so looking at sleep hygiene and getting ready for sleep. So making sure there's no devices in the evening too late, no stimulating stuff going on. So busy, stressed people are often working quite late,
Absolutely,
in front of the laptop or on their phones or whatever, and then sleep's disrupted because they've got the white light coming in, keeping them awake, and so we have to work on things like that as well. So getting out in nature is really good for stress levels. Making sure you sleep really well is important for stress levels. And then we can look at supplements as well to help. So things like magnesium can help sometimes. There's other things as well that might help. But it's a massive area.
Yeah. You could do stress on its own, couldn't you? It's so big as a topic.
Thing.
Yeah,
and it's hard to balance.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's the when once that's managed, the outcomes are amazing, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah, amazing outcomes. And you mentioned getting out into the green to walk, and if you're walking, you're doing some physical activity as well.
Exactly.
So you're dropping weight that way too, aren't you? So
that's really beneficial.
And getting your vitamin D. So
absolutely, I want more of that.
Killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Exactly what we want to do, isn't it? Amazing. So I really love that. So I could talk to you all day, Alix. I really could. It's just such an amazing. It's so amazing. I really love this because because I learned so much myself, and I'm sure that the listeners are thinking, wow, this is just so me, and I can use this and benefit from this. So this is just so amazing. So if you had to round up then and say what your 5 top tips for our audience would be to support a healthy weight in general terms, what would you say they could be?
Yeah, okay. So my 5 top tips would be, the first one would be making sure you're getting regular meals as much as you can. So this is for hormone balance and to minimize the stress response. We've just been talking about stress. So if we're not eating regular meals, so say you skip breakfast or you skip lunch, you go too far between meals, your body can actually go into that stress response. And that response is to release sugar into the bloodstream, spike your blood sugar levels, and make you store fat because insulin has to remove that sugar from the blood and often stores it as fat. So regular meals is really key for balancing insulin and hormones and for that stress response. The second thing would be to balance each meal with protein and healthy fat. We've already talked about how healthy fats are. And when it comes to healthy fats, we just want a small amount. So it might be that you are including, for example, a portion of oily fish with your main meal. So a portion of oily fish would be about the size of your fist. As a portion size. It might be that it's breakfast and you're putting some nuts and seeds into a smoothie or into some yogurt. So you're getting your healthy fats in there. You can also, with healthy fats, do a bit of a drizzle of something like olive oil or put some olives with a salad. Then again, it's small amounts, so it's just a drizzle. It's no more than maybe 1 to 2 tablespoons. It's no more than that. So we don't want to be drowning things in fat. We want to make sure we're having it, and we're having it regularly, but we want it in small amounts.
Sure.
And then the protein. So the protein should be around about 1/4 of the plate. Sometimes we say a little bit more for weight loss, but again, it's individual circumstances. Protein, so it's meat. It would be the fish. It's eggs. It's dairy. It's nuts, seeds, lentils, beans, chickpeas, that kind of stuff.
Amazing.
So make sure some of that is going into each meal as well. The third thing would be balancing each meal with lots of veg. So I think I might have mentioned this already, but at least half of the plate should be veg. We want to eat a rainbow. We talk about eating a rainbow, don't we?
Sure.
So lots of different colours, all the different colours do different things in the body. So you want to be having that variety. Fourth thing I would say is to drink more water, so aiming for at least 2 litres of water a day. So drinking water can help us to feel full, and it can help suppress the appetite, so that can help with weight loss. And also hydration is so important for body functions, so it helps to keep us regular. It's important for every cell in the body. We need to, in somewhere, drinking water is probably an area where a lot of people are lacking.
Absolutely.
So just making sure we're having more is really important. And then the last one is getting a good night's sleep. I think we've already mentioned that one.
Absolutely.
So if you're not sleeping well, think about ways that you can help with that sleep hygiene, making sure that you are relaxing before bed. It might, for some people, it's having a bath, or making sure they're having some downtime before they get into bed, and having a bit of a bedtime routine just to help with the sleep. Other people need other things, so it's obviously, as I keep saying, it's an individual basis. So
definitely. Amazing. Wow, that's just incredible. That's just top tips on their own, really, isn't it? So that someone can take away and start implementing today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Of course, every person's body is different, so work with your intolerances, your preferences, your allergies in mind, and that's why working with a professional is always advised, because they can guide you when there are these kinds of problems in place. And even I love the fact that you mentioned the hydration, because how often do we talk about water as a problem, as something that's missing and really important? So we don't think about detoxifying our body, do we? And that we need the water to detoxify.
We need it,
yeah, to wash out.
Our bodies are so much water, aren't
Absolutely.
they? They are
Exactly.
so much water. I can't remember the exact one, but it's like 99% water or something.
Absolutely. I mean, if we're not getting this water into our body, we're not going to be getting rid of the toxins that have built up in our body. And we need it for our kidney function alone, don't we, to make sure our kidneys are cleaning out that blood that is being pumped through our body every day. I think we do underestimate the work that our body does, because it's just happening without us knowing it. And we're not machines. We are complicated beings that need support. That our body's relying on us to be knowledgeable to the point where we're nourishing it and not damaging the kind of the systems working together to keep this amazing body going. So absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I find that many people don't get enough water, and when we're talking about liquids, people, we're talking about water and not pop. Please, not pop. So think about using flavored waters, think about using sparkling waters, think about using water in its purest form. That's what we're talking about here, so use herbal teas where you can. We're not saying don't go heavy on the coffees and teas. Look at how much you're drinking and what time of day you're drinking them, because then they can be problematic, can't they, with sleep and with routines.
Absolutely, yeah. Sleep, isn't it, with the
absolutely.
Caffeine,
so absolutely, there's so much there that people can take away and start looking into. And as always, seek the advice of your medical practitioner when you do start to make any drastic changes, because we can only advise you from a general perspective, and this is about information sharing and making people aware that there are concerns out there, and we want to try and bring this up to the community so that people can start taking more responsibility for themselves, because it's got to start with yourself, hasn't it, before it can get to anyone else. It's so important.
Absolutely.
Wow. I'm blown away, Alix. It's just been so amazing. It's been my highlight of the day for sure. Amazing to speak to you. I've loved my journey with you so far, and I look forward to continuing to work with you, in the future as well. I'm so appreciative of the time you've taken to join us today and share your pearls of wisdom. I'm sure it's going to serve so many people out there who are listening. So for everyone listening, I hope that what you've heard today has been insightful and gets you looking into what could work for you whilst you seek help from your individual medical provider and team. I would love to hear your thoughts, and all feedback is always appreciated. So you're joining me on Shazia on the Nutrition Show on Unity FM 93.5 FM. Grateful for another opportunity to connect with you. Take care until next time. Wassalamu alaikum.